Hey guys, what is up? Domino here after like a week or more. Dude, what is up? What is up with me? I'm not making too many videos lately, and I'm gonna need to work on that. But I have some Diablo news for you. There is actually a reason why I'm making this video. Let me put this over here. Um, the release date was just announced by Blizzard. Well, not just announced. It was either today or yesterday, or one of those days. Um, May 15th. May 15th is the big day, and I have the sound all turned down because I can't get it just right to the way that I want it, but hopefully you can hear me a little better. And I got all the subtitles on too, so. And you can see I got my partner here, Mr. Templar, who helped me out. I'm a level 8. Yeah, do that. No, do that. Yes. Oh, now he has it. Okay. Anywho, I'm real psyched about this. They finally announced a, you know, release date for this game. They took their freaking sweet time doing it, I should add. But better late than never, I guess. Not trying to be a Debbie Downer over here, but they waited a little too long, I think, and then they're gonna push it out 2 more months. So basically, 2 months we're gonna be live, and they're doing pre-orders apparently, digital pre-orders, and this reminds me of a topic that I wanted to talk about. And I actually have a list of things I want to talk about today. I'm getting all fancy on you guys. But that was kind of the first thing I wanted to talk about. Digital pre-orders. And this came up. I didn't even know that Diablo was doing this, to be honest. I heard about this from the Guild Wars beta. As you know, I signed up for the Guild Wars 2 beta, and apparently they are also announcing a pre-order. They're kind of like dueling off of each other almost. But Guild Wars, yeah, is also doing a digital preload coming up soon in April, I guess they said. And or not April. I'm crazy. It's I don't know when the date is. I'll look it up and I'll see if I can post it. But Guild Wars is doing a similar thing where you can basically pre-order the game online. I guess I'm having trouble understanding the logistics of it, because what they're saying is that how they want you to do it is you're going to pre-order the collector's edition or the game or whatever, which comes with, and I'm talking about Guild Wars now. I'm not talking about Diablo 3. I've already pre-ordered Diablo 3 on Amazon, so I'm not going to do any digital preload or anything like that. Uh, I've waited. I've waited what months, years for this game. I don't mind waiting for them to come ship it to my house. So not a big thing. But as I was saying, with that house just falling apart on its own. With the Guild Wars preload, you buy the collector's edition on the site through ArenaNet. ArenaNet is like Blizzard, the company that made the game. And then you're given a code, and you put that code into your account, and you unlock the content. But then you have to take your proof of purchase, and they say it's your invoice or your proof of purchase, to the retailer, which I assume is GameStop, Best Buy, one of those places, and get your stuff. Like I think they're including a statue. They're including a statue. They're including, God, what else are they including? a whole bunch of stuff, much like the Diablo 3 Collector's Edition, which I pre-ordered and I'm pretty psyched about. But from the standpoint of this, let me just kind of go into my thought process here. I don't really want to take a code to the store and try and negotiate that with them, because what I've found, what my experience has been doing things like these, is you go in and you show them your code and the cashier doesn't know what you're talking about, the guy doesn't know what you're talking about, they have to go get a manager, they have to go get, I've worked retail, I can tell you I've worked retail, and it just seems like a nightmare to me. I personally will not probably be doing any digital preload, because it just, to go get stuff like from the store, from a, no, I probably would not do that. And normally I wouldn't care. I don't like boxes, and I don't have a particular attachment to all the game boxes. I have so many game boxes over here that I've just, oh, excuse me, so many game boxes over here that I just don't know what to do with them all. So I don't need any more. I don't need any more drama like that in my life. But yeah, that's the first kind of complaint that I have with the way that Guild Wars is kind of doing it. And secondly, how are the retailers okay with this? Because the way I see it, when you buy the collector's edition from ArenaNet, you're essentially cutting out the retailer. There is no retailer. You're giving your money directly to ArenaNet, whereas if you were to buy through like a service like GameStop or Amazon, they, their money goes through to the retailer after they take their cut. So it doesn't quite make sense to me how the retailers are okay with it, how they're okay with essentially holding product for the game companies while they get the content on. I don't know. I don't know how it works. Um, I'm I gotta say, it sounds like a lot of drama. And for me, I'm kind of old-fashioned, and it brings me to another topic that I'm going to talk about is, you know, old-fashioned, old-fashioned stuff, and being a nostalgia person, being a nostalgic individual, and that kind of ties in with what I'm talking about. Um, it seems like they're just making things complicated. I can see where if you go into GameStop and you buy the collector's edition, that's something, right? That's easy. It's a simple transaction. I'm walking in to buy a product. I'm buying a product. I pay my money. I walk out and I have everything in there in my hands. When they start doing this thing where introducing all these other steps, like take your code into GameStop and go get your box full of stuff. Therein lies the problem, because they're introducing an element of, I would say, risk to it. Because I don't know if these guys know the guys at my local GameStop, but they are not the sharpest tools in the shed. I'm not gonna lie. These guys, they've given me trouble before, and I can say that knowing my luck, when I bring my whatever in to go get the actual physical part of my collector's edition, I know they're going to give me grief about it. I know they're going to say, like, oh, this isn't valid, or, oh, man, I'm going to have to get a manager to override this or something. I have a really bad feeling about the whole thing, and it's not exactly how I would do it, But what it also kind of defeats the purpose for me is that if you're going to get a box, okay, if you're going to, concede to the fact that, okay, I'm going to get my game in a box, I'm going to do it old school, I'm not going to stream it, I'm not going to get it off Steam, or I'm not going to digitally preload it. In both services, Blizzard and otherwise are offering services like this where you can basically buy the game online with your credit card and not have to wait in line. You can play it on day one, yada, yada, yada. That's great. That's awesome. But, if you're going to concede to having a box and going through all that stuff, then why not have it all there? Like, why not treat it like Christmas where, okay, I'm I got all my stuff in one box. It's kind of like an event. Like, if you're gonna go all the way, go all the way. I don't want to do half and half. I don't want to do half in the box. I don't want to do, getting a game code and then having to go bring my code to somebody so I can get the other half. It's just, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself, but to me, that just kind of, it seems dumb. It seems dumb, and I don't know what Guild Wars was thinking when they came up with that. I honestly don't. But I guess what kind of agitates me about Guild Wars is that they're now saying that if you do it this way, if you jump through these extra hoops for them, you get access to all the betas, like guaranteed access to all their weekend betas. And they first off, when I read it, and I consider myself a reasonably good literate person, they say you're guaranteed into all the betas. And then when you actually read the FAQ, it turns out that these beta events they're talking about are not necessarily what you think. It's not like you're in the beta, congratulations. They have these like weekend events. They're like every weekend they're going to do like a 2-day thing. That's my understanding. I mean, read the FAQ, read the FAQ, and you'll figure out what they're talking about, because they're not talking about a beta in the sense that you're in and then you have the game until release. No, that's doesn't seem to be what they're doing. Part of me doesn't really care about being part of the beta for that long, because I still want there to be some excitement and wonder, I guess. I don't want to get all sappy over here, but not like wonder, like, wonderment, but like, when you play a game for the first time, boom. I love doing that. That never gets old. I always forget to pull the chain and kill all these guys, but then I do. But now I'm getting all distracted. I want there to be like some, stuff I haven't experienced yet. And I understand the beta isn't all the content, but I like kind of figuring things out. I like kind of, not having all the answers, when I get into a game. I want to kind of figure things out and get a feel for it and not have had experienced it or something like it before. So that's my personal spin on the beta. So if I get into the beta, which I did apply for, through their normal way, I'm not pre-ordering anything through their system yet. I will run around it. It's more of a technical thing. I more or less just want to see how the game runs, and get all the possible technical issues out of the way, so that I can enjoy the game on release. I want to see if areas are going to lag me out. I want to see what my frame rate is like in different areas, because I don't want to have to worry about that stuff while I'm playing the game. I don't want it to while I'm playing the game be going, okay, why is my frame rate sucking, or what's going on, or blah 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 blah. Just to me, that's the perfect opportunity for a beta, is to get all those issues squared away, find out. Oh man, this guy's talking some smack talk. Kaboom. Yeah, in a lot of ways, this is what the Diablo 3 beta is for me, is just getting the issues kind of sorted out with my PC, getting an idea for what the size is going to be like on the hard drive, and getting a sense of, what kind of settings can I run this game at reasonably. I've been able to run this at high settings. My frame rate gets kind of low at points because I'm running fraps, but it's definitely I'm definitely very confident that I'll be able to run this game on high settings. And they're doing a good job of optimizing the game. and making it run a little better. Some common issues that I discovered that I would not have known otherwise is that how network dependent this game is. It's so network dependent. You wouldn't think that playing by yourself that it would really matter, but it does. Yeah, we got kind of like a Skyrim thing going on where this guy's talking. This guy's talking like a mile a minute. Anyway, yeah, the whole, I would say, the whole network thing is probably going to be the biggest downfall of this game, and that's simply because not everyone has a great internet connection, and I can say from experience that I have cable, and my cable is subject to the demand and uh, factors of everyone around in my apartment complex. So, if usage is high, then I'm going to be slowed down. And that's just, the nature of cable. I'll never go back to DSL because I used to have DSL when I lived in Texas, but never again. Never again. I hated DSL so bad. Stuff was bad. I mean, that was probably the worst. Ooh, Vampire Acts of Wounding. Man, I need to sell some stuff. Look at me over here. I'm talking too much. I'm not paying attention to my inventory. What is going on here? Well, what can I throw? How do I pick this up? Alright, throw that out down there. Get that. See, I got it now so it zooms in on you when you go into your inventory. But unfortunately, when it does that, you can really see how kind of cartoony the graphics are in this game. But I've already ranted about that. But okay, what else did I want to talk about? What else did I want to talk? Because I got a lot of stuff on my chest right now. I got a lot of stuff that I wanted to talk about while I have another outlet to do so. And that is Joseph Kony. And I wanted to say something about this earlier in an earlier video. Maybe make a separate video, but I decided not to. And basically because everyone else was, and I realized that it would just get mixed up with all the other people talking. So now that it's like a week later from that whole thing, I kind of wanted to share my thoughts and opinions on Joseph Kony and that whole viral video that went out about some warlord, some rebel leader in Africa who's kidnapping children and yada yada yada. That is pretty horrible. Okay, anyone would agree that's pretty horrible. That they've found a guy doing this out here essentially without, anybody telling him no, or anybody having the ability to tell him, no, that's not cool. You don't do that. But my issue is not with the content of the video. Okay, as you guys know, the video itself is a very emotional kind of analysis of Joseph Kony and everything that he's done. He's some rebel leader in Africa who kidnapped a bunch of kids and made them fight in his army. And it's one of these things where you're not sure what exactly the unbiased opinions are, because it is just so kind of manipulative. The whole thing is, framed in this, we need to do something now and blah, 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 blah. And I can understand why people get riled up after seeing that, because they see a movie like this and they're like, yeah, I need to get out there and I need to start protesting and I need to get involved and whatever and whatever. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with when people get involved, but I have the problem with all these hipsters. These hipsters and these, guys that are down here, posting tweets about and Tumblr posts about Joseph Kony like they're some kind of advocate, that like watching a 20-minute video makes you an advocate. And my question to all these people are, where was your outrage, when all the other horrific events in Africa took place? There was something called, apartheid, and there was, there were massacres in Sudan. There were massacres in Somalia. I know there's a massacre in Somalia every other day, it seems like. The simple fact is that a lot of these people probably couldn't even find Somalia on a map. A lot of these people couldn't find Uganda, which is where Joseph Kony apparently resides, on a map. And I think that's what gives me a little bit of cognitive dissonance, when you have kind of this understanding that people want to help, but then you see all these people that are clearly have no appreciation for Africa, and up until this point probably didn't even know anything about what was going on, and now they kind of want to pass themselves off as some kind of activist or some kind of world, that they have some kind of worldview, when they don't have any worldview. Half of these hipsters, if it weren't for this YouTube video, wouldn't know anything about any of this. And I guess that's part of their whole spiel, is that we need to educate and inform people and blah 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 blah. But I don't know. I'm of the opinion that if you want to educate yourself and you want to get more informed about world issues or the actual things going on in Africa, that's great. And if you want to support that, great. Go donate money. This is what I would say. Don't retweet things. Don't post dumb. Don't retweet stuff that aren't your words in the first place, and try and pass yourself off as some kind of activist, because it's dumb, and you would be helping the cause if you donated money. And secondly, don't donate money to this organization. I think they call it it's something children. I don't know what the charity's called, but it has the word children in it. Apparently, they pay the director who you see on this 20-minute film. He makes like $80K a year. They pay this guy a huge salary, and I think they said that only about a little under 30%, according to financial records that they have to release as being part of a charity organization. Only about 30% of their income actually goes to the cause that they're selling. And to me, that's like, okay, what? The rest of that money, the rest of that 70% of that money goes to making more viral videos, paying people, just kind of overhead. To me, that seems like a pretty bad ratio. If I'm running a charity, it should be the other way around. You should be paying your people with 30% of that, and 70% should be going back to the to the cause that you're basically soliciting money for. Now, I'm not against charities. I'm not against people raising money for good stuff, but you need to research the charities. I mean, I would go with something like the Red Cross before I ever went with, this organization. So if watching this Joseph Kony video, made you go and donate a little bit to the Red Cross, or I don't know, any reputable organization, then great. I mean, great. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But a lot of these hipsters, I think, are just doing it because it's hip. It's cool right now to care about Africa. And to me, that's kind of, I have a lot of disdain for people like that, because what are they going to be talking about a month from now? Are they still going to be retweeting about Joseph Kony. No, they're not. They're going to be on to the next thing. They're basically fair weather supporters. As long as it's hip and there's something viral going on that they can get some attention out of, they'll support it. And that's part of the reason why I didn't make a video about this earlier, is because I didn't want to be lumped in with a lot of the other people that I think are just talking about it for attention. And I don't know. I just find it a bit hard to stomach. Um, that's about all I have to say about Joseph Kony. Um, I realize I probably didn't give it the attention to detail that a lot of other people have, and I think, just to kind of recap, I'm not against charities and people getting informed. That's not what we're talking about. It's not what it's not at all. I don't mind people voicing their support and saying this is screwed up, this is messed up. But I think it kind of ties in with the kind of people that I kind of dislike, and that's people that drink their own Kool-Aid. You know, I think there are a lot of people out here who will never admit it, but they think, oh, I saw this video and now I tweeted a whole bunch about this, and now I'm some kind of defender of Africa. I'm some kind of activist, or I'm a go volunteer. You know, go donate money. Go, if you're gonna do something like that, go at least donate some money so that they can pay some people that are actually gonna do something about changing things over there. Don't sit there and be an armchair activist, because to me that's like being a poser, and the world has enough posers as it is. So educate yourself and don't live in ignorance is basically what I would say. And it's really the problem. It's really a problem with our society, is that we celebrate and live in ignorance. I bring up that yesterday was Pi Day. Okay, so now it's all hip to post about Pi Day. Oh, let's post some pictures of some pies and whatnot. This country is 18th out of 36 industrialized nations for education. Okay. I think that when you're that bad and you're not a third world country, I think you lose the right to celebrate Pi Day. To me, it's a little bit of, again, cognitive dissonance. What the hell? We're a culture where more people voted in American Idol than did in the last election. And I'm not trying to diss America, because I live here, and I understand that it's messed up. I understand that it's just the way it is. Lady Dundled. This is a new quest. Some kind of new. Now see, they've made an updated interface here. They got like stuff going on here. Come on, Lord Dundled. I just kicked him across the map. That's freaking hilarious. But like I said, I don't want this turned into an anti-American rant, because it really isn't. I don't really appreciate those kind of people either. And I know the kind of people that do that. They're over here. Yeah, America sucks. I'm gonna move to Canada. Man, healthcare and blah 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 blah. That's great and all, and I understand that, but no country is perfect, and I think a lot of people, the grass is always greener on the other side, if you know what I mean. And they get there and then they start bitching. It's like, I actually knew a guy. Okay, here's a story time with Domino. I knew a guy in high school, and no, I don't want to travel there yet. I knew a guy in high school, and I'm not gonna put his name up here just in case he happens upon this video, but he basically hated America, and that's okay. That's cool. I understood it, but all he did was talk about how great another country was, cough, Canada, cough. And so he finally moved there, right? So after high school, he finally moved there and finally got himself set up over there, got a job, got his all his paperwork done. And I recently just found his Twitter account because he was, I guess, big on the Twitter box. And after having seen this guy, not having seen this guy since high school, I'm looking over his tweets, just casually browsing over them. Hey, what's this guy up to? All he's doing is bitching about Canada now. Oh man, this is so messed up. I can't believe this. Blah 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 blah. So this guy and I had two classes with him. I had two classes with him in high school. He spent every breath decrying America, how it sucked over here, and how everything's all messed up, and blah 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 blah. Now he gets to a new spot, and all of a sudden it's not fun. Okay. Those kind of people, I just have to laugh at because they're just so. It's like, what did you expect? I would say to and there are these kind of people are everywhere, and I would say that make the best of a situation before you decide to run to another country, because chances are if you're leaving any situation, if you're leaving for the wrong reasons, chances are your problems are still going to be there when you get there, okay? And I have a feeling that living in America was not this guy's only issue. I have a feeling he had a couple, and it's just it's kind of funny that it took him moving and all that to figure that out. But like I said, America's a messed up place, and I don't drink my own Kool-Aid. I don't drink my own country's Kool-Aid to the point where I can't acknowledge that that's true. There are a lot of things messed up about America that a lot of people probably don't like to hear. America sucks in education. We're fat, and we're fat because I would argue that we live in a culture of expedience, if that's even a word. We live in a culture of convenience. Let's put it that way. Convenience culture, and everything has to be right now. Everything has to be 30 seconds or less, 30 minutes or less, and we want to be able to do it from our cars. And that kind of mentality basically brings the McDonald's and the fast food and whatnot all into the forefront. And we're a culture that celebrates that. And I'm not. Why can't I sell that? And I'm not blaming anybody here, but American culture is messed up. That's what I'm trying to say here. American culture has its priorities backwards, and it always will be that way. As long as we're a society and a culture that celebrates ignorance. We celebrate celebrities, and we celebrate people like, I don't know, just pretentious celebrities that seem to be so full of themselves that it's not even funny. And these are our role models, and yet we ignore intellectuals. Intellectuals are seen as, what did a friend of mine say? Not necessarily a friend of mine, but he said something like, uh, intellectuals, you can't trust an intellectual because you don't know what they're trying to pull. You don't. They're always accused of spinning the facts, like somehow knowing more is is equivalent to having control of the information. And in a lot of ways it is, but I think a lot of people are distrustful of I would say smart people because they're seen as the gatekeepers of the information, and you don't know what they're doing with it. You don't know what they're doing with that information when they give it to you. They could be lying to you. They could be telling you stuff that's not true. That's the kind of mentality that I see a lot in the South. And I'm not going to I'm not going to diss the South, but did I already go here? Yeah, I did. Frickin' A. I am completely lost. Beneath the cemetery of the Forsaken. I guess I gotta go back here and go into this one. Nope. This way. I think that's one of the reasons why I would say, get along with a lot of people. It's just because I have a very low bullshit threshold. And I kind of don't like people that are really, I would describe it as drinking their own Kool-Aid. There's so many people in this world who have drunk their own Kool-Aid, and to me those kind of people are kind of scary, in the sense that they're kind of blinded. They're kind of blinded by their own, issues or whatever, and it seems like they're everywhere. People that are unable to criticize themselves is what I'm trying to say. People that their vision is so skewed that they aren't able to look at themselves in a critical manner. They're not able to look at things in a critical manner. They're not able to look at something and say, this is messed up. No, we shouldn't live in a society where more people vote in American Idol than vote in the presidential election. That's a problem. That's not good. And if you aren't able to look at the U.S. through that context and say, this needs work, this is messed up, then in a lot of ways I think you've drunken a lot of Kool-Aid. And but at the same time, there are people that take it too far. There are people that only see the negative aspects of the United States culture and all that, and they can't see any of the good. They can't see any of the positive positive things that American culture is good at. I'm having trouble coming up with any distinct examples, but I know there are a lot of good people over here that seem to care about others, and it's always a positive thing. We have a lot of good game developers. Think about that. Although that isn't really, I don't think that's really a symbol of American culture. But on that same key, of drinking your own Kool-Aid and essentially American culture in the context of video games, you have to, there's another group of people that kind of annoy me. And this is what I was originally going to talk about, before I got way off track and started talking about a whole bunch of other crap. these people that I call nostalgia people. I don't want to say nostalgia whores, but we'll call them nostalgia people for now. But I think we all pretty much know what's going on. But you know the people. These are the kind of people that everything was always better back in the 80s. Back in the day, it was always better. Everything everything was better back in their day. And if they had their druthers, they'd still be playing Street Fighter on SNES all day long. And to me, some of those people kind of annoy the crap out of me because one, I was there. Okay, I was there, and I can tell you right now that no, gaming wasn't great back then. It was the same as it was here. You had some gems, you had some, you had some really good games, and then you had some god awful, terrible games that came out on a regular basis. You know, not every game that came out back in the 80s and early 90s was great. In fact, the opposite. Most of them, just like today, there was a whole lot of crap to sift through, and then there were some good ones. And the way you hear some of these nostalgia whores talk about it, you would think that gaming was just a vast cornucopia of arcade classics. We were all playing Pac-Man. For me, growing up, who actually went to arcades at the mall when they had arcades at the mall, I played Pac-Man maybe for probably 30 minutes, 20 minutes before concluding that, okay, I'm done. I'm done with this. Most arcade games were like that. And I grew up in the DOS age of games. So, I grew up with the One Must Fall 2097. I played Champions of Zulalula, which is YouTube it. Okay, Champions of Zulalula. It was quite possibly the worst animated game ever created in the history of just gaming. But at the time, we didn't know any better. You know what? I was maybe 8. So a lot of gaming sucked back then. Okay, and people don't want to admit that. Everybody's like, oh yeah, games back then, games nowadays, they just don't have that. They just don't have that feel. They just don't have that quality. I say bullshit. Bullshit. There was no more or less quality back then as there was today. And that's coming from a guy that was frickin' there, okay? I was there. I bought games all the frickin' time. I played on every console, pretty much every console. I played on Atari. I played on Sega Genesis, 16-bit and 32-bit CD. I also played on SNES, NES. I was a gamer, okay? And back then, it was not all sunshine and rainbows. A lot of it was just garbage. And you gotta wonder. Right, I gotta do a town portal. You gotta wonder, the way some of these people talk, you wonder if they were even there. You wonder if they were playing the same games that you were. And I see a lot of these people in Nintendo fans, and I know a lot of Nintendo fans are gonna hate me over here, but that's essentially what Nintendo is. Nintendo buys and sells a time machine. They are essentially selling you a time machine where you can kind of ignore the fact that there's been 20 years of game development, and you can kind of play the games that you grew up on just over and over and over again to your heart's content. And you can buy a new console every year and feel like you're not necessarily living in the past. That's kind of what Nintendo has become, and it's a sad fact that they were not always like that. Nintendo used to be just like, I don't know if anybody else knows this, but 3DFX. Now, anybody that was into PC gaming back in the day, back in the heyday, knew that 3DFX was the king. Okay, 3DFX was the king of graphics cards. When you bought a graphics card back in the back in those times, it was either a Voodoo card or a Matrox card. And if you had a Matrox card, you were basically a scrub because they were shit. At least the ones I owned were. So you had Voodoo 2, Voodoo 3, Voodoo 4, Voodoo 5, and I think there was a Voodoo 6. But I think it was a developmental model, and I don't think they ever released it. But yeah, I had a Voodoo 3 for the longest time ever. And just like Nintendo used to be that. Nintendo used to be the standard of console gaming. And I think in a lot of ways they failed because they refused to acknowledge the competition. They refused to acknowledge that you can't live in the past. You can't live playing the same Zelda game over and over and over again. And I know a lot of these people, they're going to hate me. These Zelda fans and these series fans that just absolutely love it. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that makes you happy, that's great. But a lot of these game series that Nintendo cranks out is just like, hey, remember when we did that? Remember when we were cool? I think Nintendo is really failing, and I think that it's going to be ultimately their downfall because they're just refusing to expand their library. How many Mario parties do we really need? How many Mario play? How many Mario games do we really need? Back in the day when I played Mario, it was something that consumed hours and hours and hours of my life. Okay? Now when I play, now when what gaming has become, I don't ever want to go back to that. I understand, playing Mario is fun, playing, on a older console is fun, but it really isn't. It isn't at all. I don't want to go back to the past, and I don't want to relive all that stuff. I mean, I was freaking there. I was there for a great part of my life. And, it's always nice to see a throwback. Obviously. That's not the issue here. I don't have a problem with throwbacks, and I don't have a problem with, people making games that kind of celebrate the way it was. But a lot of people, like I said, don't seem to get it. They don't seem to understand that at some point you have to put the SNES controller down and you have to move on because it's just unhealthy to me. The way some of these people latch on to these, the old ways. But like I said, it's all about happiness. If it makes you happy, whatever. For me, I couldn't see putting in the amount of game time on an old system when there are games like Diablo 3 out. How could you do this? When you could play a game like Skyrim, why would you be out there playing anything else? Is what I want to know. Wow. I love how they have little conversations. I love how they talk to each other. It's funny. Oh. And on the same token, I'm not so deluded as to think that modern gaming is anywhere near living up to the potential that it could. And I think it's partly because of fear. And what does that mean? What does that mean? Developers are afraid. And it's much like the movie industry where the big developers don't want to finance projects like indie projects necessarily because they're afraid that it won't sell. They're afraid that essentially if they don't do what has been done a million times before, that they're going to have, they're going to lose. They're going to lose on their money. Basically, they're going to have a product that won't sell, and they're going to lose their money, and yada yada yada. And I think that much like Hollywood, if you watch mainstream Hollywood, this is why we have like 3 Transformers movies a year. Okay, this is why we have these things, because they're guaranteed to sell. When they release a Transformers movie, there are rooms of people somewhere sitting around a room with numbers and calculators, and they go, okay, this is the guaranteed minimum amount of money that this film is going to make, because we've made so many of these that we can now gauge what it is. So it's like a paycheck for them. When they release a movie like that, it's a by the numbers paycheck. Okay? Now, the game industry is much in the same way. I'm trying to think of a company that's had a very long standing series that isn't necessarily good. I would say Resident Evil has been a big offender with this regard. I think they crank out a lot of Resident Evil games are pretty bad. A lot of them are pretty good, but they just crank them out like crazy. They don't care. Oh man, Fraps is really making my frame rate take a hit with all these skeletons. But I don't fault Capcom though. I really don't fault Capcom, because I think Capcom has done some pretty daring stuff. They aren't afraid to release games that might not necessarily be all that great. But Activision, I would say, and I realize that Activision does make Diablo 3. This is the truth. I think Electronic Arts is probably the biggest offender. Hands down, the biggest offender that there is. And that's simply because EA has basically sullied their name to the point where when I see an EA logo on a game, there's an instant negative reaction that I have. I don't care if the game is amazing. I don't care if it's awesome. I get an instant negative reaction when I see that logo appear. EA Games, Part of my dislike for them is the fact that they basically threw a bitch fit with the fees that Steam was charging them and opened up their own online store, which overlaps with Steam. Many of the codes and game codes and whatnot for Steam are also compatible with Origin. So you've got this, you've got these two competing programs using each other's CD keys. It's the very definition of convoluted, and I don't want to have two programs running. Not to mention Origin, which is basically like Steam if you stripped out all the good things and all the you know what? I'm going to go back to town and sell my stuff. Origin is like Steam if you just stripped out all the good things and all the usefulness part of it and had a horrendous, awful, shitty interface that is really kind of unforgivable considering how much time and energy EA can spend making games. If you had the kind of money that EA had, there's no reason why they had to make an interface this freaking god-awful terrible. It almost baffles the mind how they made it that bad. But they did. They sure did. I don't like Origin because Origin is title specific. How do I get in here? Go there. Title specific, or I should say developer specific, in that only EA approved games are going to be on there. Then you have Steam, which has developers of all kinds. They have indie developers. They have uh, just, what are you doing? Huh? Who are you? Ooh, I got two partners now. Check that out. But yeah, to me, it defeats the whole purpose of having an online streaming service to have, uh, a service for just EA games. I hate the EA logins. I hate the fact that that if you buy an EA game on Steam, it forces you to log into your EA account. Just don't get me started. It gets me riled up the way they do that, the way they did that. Um, but most of all, it's the quality. EA games are just crap, and there's no way to get around it. They're just utter and complete crap, and you can't really get around that fact. I mean, there are some gems in there, but you gotta look for them. Um, if I were the CEO of Electronic Arts, I would be very concerned with the fact that my brand is now pretty much hated by uh, a whole lot of people. But they're making money, so they don't care. So they're gonna keep cranking out crap games using the same ugly ugly engine that they use. Come on. Can't this guy bash these things open? Guess not. I think the example that I would use, and if I were running a company, how would I run my company? I would be the kind of open-minded person, much like the person that was probably faced with a tough decision at AMC, the AMC TV network, when they were came to with The Walking Dead. You know, now I'm sure that the guys at AMC sat down and sweat bullets over the fact that this. Oh, there's your stolen items. I'm sure they sweat bullets over the fact that they didn't know if their audience would be receptive to this series. And they took a risk. They essentially took a risk and released a zombie series on a basic cable network. They weren't sure, probably if it would do real well, but they did it anyway. They took a risk. They could have lost all their money, but they didn't because it was good. Okay? And this is what a lot of game companies and whatever nowadays in modern gaming won't do. They won't take a risk like that. They would rather do the same thing over and over again. They'd rather release Street Fighter 12 for digital download on the Xbox Live Marketplace than make something new. Give people a new experience. And this is why I don't understand these nostalgic people so much. Is that if they had their way, they'd be doing the same thing over and over and over again. And they're just happy to do that. For me, I understand brands. I understand that some people like to play the same style of game over and over and over again. That's not really me. I have some series like Diablo that I really follow, and Guild Wars and things like that. And that's not like, I wouldn't say nostalgia, but simply knowing what you like. And I guess if you know for a fact that you like Street Fighter games, then by all means, buy Street Fighter 12 or Resident Evil whatever. And hey, I pre-ordered Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City because it looks different. It looks like they're actually, taking the series and doing something a little different with it. And to me, that's something I appreciate. A lot of people seem to want to do that. They don't want to take the series in a different location. And let's bring it all the way around here. This is the this is the complaint that I have with Diablo 3, and I have not drunk the Diablo 3 Kool-Aid. I can say when Diablo 3 has issues, and my issue with Diablo 3 is that it's a by-the-book sequel. Diablo 3 is just by the book completely, and it plays it safe in every way. It's just, it doesn't take any risks. It doesn't take any risks with the series. I mean, they know what people are expecting, and they're just giving it to them. And I guess that's... I don't know where Jondar is. I've been walking around for like hours. This video has gone on for way too long anyway, so I'm going to release part 2 in a bit. Thank you for listening to my rant. As always, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for thumbs upping. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know if I'm full of crap, because usually I am. You can hit me up on Twitter, www.twitter.com/darkdomino, and I will probably tweet you back if you do. As always, thank you, and peace.